My name is Garrett Sims. We got a great episode of Sports Timeout coming at you. Hopefully, we're back to regular recording. The weather and holiday break kind of, just does things. This week, we got senior member of the OHS wrestling team, Brady Jones. He joined us to talk a little bit about what he's expecting on the mat this year. It was a great interview. Pleasure talking to him. With that being said, we got episode 14 coming at you right now. My name's Garrett Sims. Me and Kory are back from not only a winter break, but I guess a snowstorm, Kory?
We haven't done this in dad joke loading a whole year since 2024, so this is our first 2025.
If I remember correctly, it was before our Christmas party, so it was almost a whole year ago.
Yeah, it was. It seems like a year ago, but yeah, hopefully we're not too rusty here.
And not to only mention that, but you get the snowstorm and everything like that. These kiddos, they go to holiday break, and then and somebody told me this at the front desk, I think, the other day. They're like, it's always whenever they get to go back to school, there's always one snowstorm that kind of prevents these kids from going back. And It was like, this year was no different.
This year's no different. I know last year it was bitter cold because my kids were at home for another week after school break. So, yeah, this year, snowstorm, last year, bitter cold. Really messes with schedules and cancellations and reschedules and getting to games and not getting to games, all that fun stuff. So hopefully we hit a good stretch of weather and we can knock some games and some matches and some tournaments out.
Yeah, and like Kory's saying here, they're getting back to action. So we're going to kind of get you what we have and get you kind of caught up on what's been going on. Just to kind of go through some things. Odessa per se, girls basketball, really, really hot. We'll talk about them in a second. 8-1, tremendous start. Mm-hmm. Led by Jake Doyle, head coach Jake Doyle.
Yes.
And he's doing a tremendous job. Not only that, but it's always great to see somebody like Kinley Grubb as an assistant or Miss Gutierrez, because I think they just add a lot to the ball knowledge. And not only that, you got a former OHS alumni athlete, one of the greatest to probably ever be on the court.
Looking at Miss Kinley on the bench, you would think she still has on a uniform and has her ankles taped and she's ready to play. She's into it as an assistant coach, as much as any assistant coach I've ever seen, quite honestly. And you got to love that. You can't falter for it either, because there's good ball being played out there by the girls right now, and hopefully they can keep that rolling.
Yeah, they can. We hope they do. Boys kind of flip side a little bit. They're 3-7. They're working out some things. We had Will Fox on when we did last record, and we kind of talked to him about some things. And it's kind of like what he talked about. I think finding your footing and building the culture and just kind of building what you want this program to be. And he's getting the first taste of that.
Yeah, he's got some talented players, a lot of young players. He's got a lot of sophomores on the court. That is going to come with that some growing pains. A lot of those sophomores played as freshmen. So, again, you're stepping into a situation where you've got young talent. Hopefully that talent is going to keep getting better, and the effort and the work is going to pay off in the next couple of years for sure.
And I just love seeing them out there. I'm excited. I'm excited for them. Excited for this team to see what they do down the stretch. Like we said, it doesn't matter so much what you do in the regular season. And we'll talk about that with Bill Hughes because that's his big thing,
Yeah.
But make it to the postseason.
Yep.
Talk a little bit about boys wrestling and girls wrestling kind of as a whole. I know the boys wrestling team's 1-0. Girls, they have a few matches and stuff like that. I don't have the results or the stats. That's on me. But they're doing some great things because Odessa just had a try with Oak Grove in Warrensburg, and they dominated, I think.
Yeah.
Goodness gracious.
Yeah, I think they won both in dominating fashion, 52-15 and 60-15. That's what sticks in my head. I think they had a couple of opens and one decision loss in each of those duels. But my gosh, yeah, they looked really good. With the new 3-point takedown rule scoring, it makes those tech falls really accessible, I guess, early on. And I know a couple of guys, or 3 or 4 of the guys, had tech falls against both of those duels. So they're just it's a squad of really good wrestlers who are really good at what they do, and you can tell they love what they do and they love competing and going out there and quite honestly dominating, and that's what they did against the Tigers and the Panthers. So,
and you're gonna see it later in the episode. We sat down with Brady Jones. His sister is an intern at the Odessa, so that's how we got that connection. Great interview with him, and I think he's a guy eager to get into practice, work hard, do his thing day in and day out, and let kind of reap what you sow per se. Mm-hmm. Let the hard work speak for itself, and whatever happens, he's going to be there for it. And it was such a great time to talk to him because he's got a great mentality and a great head on his shoulders.
Mm-hmm. He's a great teammate. And like you said, he talked about when we interviewed him for the winter sports section a few months ago. He talked about you hear the trust the process. Well, that's pretty much what he's all about. Nothing. You can't achieve one thing without building up to it as far as putting in the work and the time, and he understands that. So that's a good thing to have out of a senior, especially on a squad with a lot of young guys, a lot of good young guys. So I'm sure he's passing that knowledge on down, and like I said, great teammate. Hopefully he can win some matches here in January, February, and make another run at that state tournament.
And we're rooting for it, Kory. We're rooting for it. We're going to jump over to the Panthers. Their girls basketball team is about just as good. I mean, girls basketball is really, really hot. So far throughout the winter season, they're 7-2. I mean, they're doing a lot of great things on the court. I can't say when did they get back to action?
They are in the Pleasant Hill tournament as we speak. They lost to a pretty good St. Michael, the Archangel team in the quarterfinals. They play for 5th tonight, I believe, as we're recording this on a Friday. Play for 5th tonight. I think they play Pembroke Hill. Winnable ball game there. Boys are playing for 5th as well at the Pleasant Hill tournament. They won one and lost one, if I'm thinking that's correct. Lost to Central Kansas City, and then I believe they beat Pleasant Hill. I may be eating my words here when I go back and look at the notes. I'm doing this off the top of my head. Playing for 5th. They've got good ball players, both teams. Solid teams. The 6-5 record for the boys team doesn't, I don't think, necessarily reflect how good that team really is.
No, and that's what we say sometimes. Don't let the record judge these teams or whatever, because it goes down to, again, Bill Hughes, get to the postseason, learn the lessons, get to that point, and see what happens from there. Because
Odessa boys have had a tough schedule. Oak Grove boys have had a tough schedule. Not to say that the girls teams on both of those squads haven't with their really good records. They've definitely earned those too. But yeah, there's lessons to be learned, and it's going to pay off here in February and March in the postseason.
Oh yeah, and we'll kind of go over to boys wrestling and girls wrestling. Kind of not to group them together, but I kind of do sometimes, just because I think sometimes they will have like meets on the same day, but one day they'll have girls at a tournament and then boys at a different tournament. So it's all cool to see how they come together, and then when they do wrestle and stuff. Boys are 2-2. They got a lot of great guys on that team, and girls is 1-5-1 with one tie.
Girls are good. I mean, again, don't let the record, make you think otherwise. They got really good wrestlers. When they were wrestling Odessa the other night at that tri-duel with Warrensburg, they did not wrestle Warrensburg that night because they have them coming up, I believe, here in a couple of weeks. But again, we keep going back to Lauren Phillips, Keely Follert,
Eva Alexander,
Brianna Couch looked really good. They've got girls on that team, and quite honestly, so does Odessa. That can honestly make a run at a state title. Individually for sure. And for a team. So both of those teams were 3rd and 4th last year in Class 1. Odessa was 3rd, Oak Grove was 4th. Honestly, both those teams could be 1 and 2 at the end of February, and it could be either team at this point. They both have work to do. I think they would both head coaches would admit to that. But they're definitely eyeballing big-time hardware in Columbia here in a few weeks.
And we hope they do, and obviously we got a long ways to see until we get there, but all we can do is root for them. And going forward, we're going to jump over to Wellington. They probably have had, what would you say, the longest time getting back to action?
Seems like it, yeah. Those poor guys and gals. And honestly, I mean, you get back to practicing over winter break, and it just seems like it takes forever because you have no games in sight, and then you get games canceled. yeah, so they're finally back in action, so good for them.
I can kind of speak to it. I can kind of not speak to it. I wrestled in 7th and 8th. I never really did, per se, a winter sport during that time, but I can tell you, when you're on winter break, your head's checked out. You know what I mean? You're not in school. So, and that's why I give a lot of these guys credit, even Brady Jones, who has that mentality and can keep that mentality through that break and work hard and things like that. It's very hard. So, these guys that get back to action, and even the boys, they go to Sweet Springs, do a great job in that game. Good. When we're going to talk about that, because Maddox Blystone, oh God, what a game!
Unleash the beast.
Yes,
for sure.
He restored the roar of that game.
There you go, love it.
Shout out Andy Hampton. Girls, they're 2-8. Boys, they're 2-7 on the young season. Obviously, as we talked about, and Bill Hughes, we've mentioned him a lot already this morning, but. They're learning their lessons a little bit. They're playing competitive games, and that's all you can ask for. And hopefully, by the time it comes down to districts and stuff like that, that they can make a run. And these teams can.
Yeah, they can. And they opened up conference play, or had a conference game, like you said, against Sweet Springs. Girls dropped that contest. The boys won theirs. They're back in action again against Crest Ridge tonight. Doubleheader for girls and boys. Another conference game. So, the schedule and the intensity picks up pretty quick here, especially with the cancellations from the last week or so because of weather. So it's going to get really busy real quick, and it's going to be a 5 to 7 week stretch run here that it's multiple games a week, and you got to get after it. And head coach Andy Hampton for the girls, head coach Bill Hughes for the boys. They'll both have those teams ready. So.
Oh yeah, and we're rooting them on. Big fan of Andy and Bill. So, and with that being said, I like to say this. As the weeks come on, we would like to focus on more storylines and bigger games and less on the statistics and records to give you more of that insight and commentary that you guys are craving.
Yep.
So stick with us over these next couple weeks. And with that being said, we're going to kind of jump into our storylines. You were at the game, girls basketball versus Penny, an 80-30 win. My goodness, Kory. I don't think you see... obviously it says a lot about Penny, but I think the reason this stands out so much more to me is because the girls are 8-1. I think they have great leadership all the way around.
Yeah. And
Kory, they're pretty young.
Yeah. They looked really good against Penny. I do have to say Penny is my alma mater from way back in the day, back when we were called the Hamilton Hornets. Now they're the Penny Hornets. Unfortunately, I don't know any of those kids anymore. I'm just way too past that. But they were manhandled the other day in the quarterfinals. Charlie Adams was fantastic as usual. Keely Bird, fantastic as usual. Brooke Miller came off the bench for 15 points.
That's impressive.
Was draining threes, what seemed like all over the court. So great effort from the girls. Also really good effort and result. Because of the break. That's your first game back after
that's what you want to see.
Seems like 4 weeks off. Yeah, and that's what you want to see. And they looked like they hadn't missed a step, and that's a good sign.
And that's like I'm kind of saying. I think it's a credit to the leadership and the coaching. And like we talked about Kinley earlier, and I think that goes across the entire coaching staff. These guys care, and they want them to succeed. And you just love it when your team comes back off a break and they're firing all cylinders. We'll see with the Chiefs this weekend if that will be the case.
Talk about a storyline.
That's the little surprise at the end for you. We are going to dive into that.
Let's do it.
I want to go over to the other basketball, which was the boys, and it was a big win for them, 76-46 over Sweet Springs. And Maddox Blystone, if you're listening, way to unleash the beast. 34 points, 10 rebounds, 2 assists, and 4 steals. He's balling right now, and as a kid I interviewed, and you just want to see it. It's exciting.
Yeah. No, I saw that too. When I saw that stat line, I was like, heck yeah. It was one of those deals where obviously you're rooting for the Tigers to get a W. It's been a struggle. Their schedule is not weak by any means, but to get a win in conference by 30 points, get 34 right of one of your seniors, that's huge. That's a huge,
especially when it helps you in those conference standings and things like that.
Absolutely.
So, and just to touch on it, Johnny Hampton, 13 points, 8 rebounds, 3 assists.
Yep.
He's not far off.
Yeah.
And it takes a team effort to win by 30, obviously.
Absolutely.
So big shout out to team efforts on the Tigers and the girls basketball over Penny. Those are huge team efforts, and it comes down from even I just want to say this because I don't get to say it a lot. Scout team players. It takes you to do this. It takes the practice, it takes the starters, it takes everybody. So huge team effort. The biggest thing I wanted to talk about was Bob Urhlaub at a wrestling match the other night. I'll let you set the scene because you were there.
Well, it was the tri-duel with Warrensburg and Oak Grove. Bob, a freshman. I'm thinking that's correct, right?
I think so.
I'm pretty sure that's correct. Bob Urhlaub, freshman. First varsity match of the night, dropped it to the Warrensburg wrestler at 2:15. Second match of the night, I believe he wrestled Grant McGinnis from Oak Grove and got the 13-3 win by major decision, which was his first varsity win. And it felt, from the bench, just watching the bench cheer him on, especially when his hand was raised, like it felt like he won a natty. It felt like he won a national championship. I mean, they were genuinely happy for him. It was his first varsity win. Well earned, obviously, against your biggest rival from Oak Grove. So huge crowd. I mean, the place was jam packed. So I mean, it was an exciting thing for him. He wasn't overly emotional about the whole thing. It wasn't jump.
And Urhlaub isn't.
No.
I can tell you firsthand, and Urhlaub isn't very emotional.
No. But hopefully it's the first of many to come in his career. I'm sure it will be. And, then we can celebrate the rest of them. But there's nothing like your first time getting your hand raised, and so congratulations to him.
Yeah, congratulations to Bob Urhlaub. I mean, obviously I grew up with Ethan a little bit, so, I mean, I remember Bob being little, and, it's kind of crazy to think that they're freshmen and sophomores and even seniors now that they're growing up. But, I mean, the confidence that he has to feel just to get it off his back. He's got his win, and
Absolutely.
Just not a better kid. You just want to celebrate with him. He's a great kid.
Very cool.
With all that being said, I think we kind of talked about everything. So I want to talk about something that is going to hit the hearts of many. 24 days break, haven't played since Christmas. You got the Houston Texans, Kory. And I just want to get your thoughts. I'm really interested to see what you think. Me personally, I think the break is needed. I think you're going to see very tuned Chiefs team, and I think we're going to be fine for the divisional round.
I hope so. It's one of those deals where it's really hard to beat a team twice, even if it's on your home field. We just beat Houston weeks 15, 16, something like that. It was very recent. It started our little 3 games in 11 days stretch. So C.J. Stroud scares me, quite honestly. But I like that we're rested, healthy. I mean, as far as I know, we're healthy.
I mean,
Patrick Mahomes hasn't thrown a pass since Christmas Day. That scares me just a hair, a little rustiness, but
the only reason, and I saw something this morning, this is the only reason I want to talk about it, because they were like, really, if you take out the first 6 weeks of Mahomes' season, those last, he looked very Mahomesian. He looked like himself. He looked like vintage Mahomes, and it's crazy to say he looks vintage when he was only a rookie in 2018, but... Yeah. I don't know. What scares me the most is that defense. I think Daniil Hunter and Will Anderson Jr., the fact that they could just, rip apart our tackles. But I don't know. There's a part of me that wants to run out 6 linemen, 2 tight ends, and just feed the ball to Pacheco and Hunt, because that's been the one thing the Texans can't stop. But I don't know, Kory. I think it's going to be such an exciting game. I was sitting there last weekend, and I was like, there's not a Chiefs playoff game. And I felt sad. I felt disappointed. I felt like my life was missing something. I love the first round buys, but I need my Chiefs playoff football.
I always look forward to Wild Card Weekend because it's usually wild. Duh, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And last week's games were just duds, unfortunately, except for Tampa Bay and Washington was a good game. Everything else was not truly that competitive.
And that's in Washington, and Tampa's your 4 and 5.
Yeah.
And I would just like to throw this out here because there was a report that came out that they were saying, well, the NFL is thinking about in the future going by win percentage rather than division winners. Well, you know what's funny? Out of 8 division winners, 7 of them won in the wild card round.
No.
So, I mean, take that for what it is. And granted, they could say, well, then the higher winning percentage doesn't have home field advantage. And I really think if anybody kind of got hurt in wild card weekend, it was the Vikings. Because I really think in another universe, if it was played in L.A. or, not anything else happens, I think it's a different story. I think just with everything going on, sometimes sports is poetic. Sports can be artistic, and it just was the Rams game to win.
It was. And honestly, the Vikings completely laid egg in the last regular season game against Detroit. Sam Darnold looked average at best.
It looks like he was seeing ghosts in MetLife again.
Yeah, I don't know what the deal was. He just looked not good. And then they go from possibly being a 1 seed and having home field to dropping to a 5. And then you got to go to L.A./Glendale to play the Rams. And
who had already beat you previously
Yeah.
and not made you feel good about yourself.
Yeah.
So just a credit, I think, really to the Rams defensive line.
Yeah.
They were...
Yeah, I would love to see the Rams give Philadelphia some trouble this week. I mean,
I hope so.
I think they can. But man, Saquon Barkley's an absolute beast himself.
He's the MVP. In my heart, he's the MVP.
I think Allen's going to get it in Buffalo.
Well, I know Allen's going to get it, but my logic's always been if you have Lamar, Allen, Burrow, and even Sam Darnold, you're saying, well, their stats are so similar. Give it to somebody else. Because at that point you could flip a coin and be right for either of them.
Yeah.
Even Darnold, you can have a point he's the MVP.
Yeah.
So at that point, I've always been give the running back what he deserves, and
Yeah.
Saquon is literally if the Eagles win a Super Bowl, if they make it to the Super Bowl, Saquon's the reason.
Oh yeah, he is definitely the most valuable player for his team. I mean, you could argue any other number of people on some of those other teams. Derrick Henry for the Ravens instead of Lamar Jackson. You could.
But it's made them more consistent, and they've said there was a report yesterday I saw that the Derrick Henry and Saquon had like this group chat for running backs and how to value the position more, and I'm like, what Derrick Henry's brought to the Ravens is a guaranteed consistency when you run the ball. Same thing Saquon Barkley's done. Same thing Isaiah Pacheco's done for the Chiefs and Kareem Hunt. So, this idea that running backs are devalued, I don't necessarily think that should be true because they can add that consistent running game that can get you points, and it's all about staying ahead of the chains at the end of the day. So that's my big soapbox rant on why Saquon should be MVP. Not to mention
I hear you, brother.
hurled a dude backwards.
He did hurdle a guy backwards. Still not sure how that happened, and we'll be seeing that clip for literally eternity. But yeah, I mean, you gotta give it to. I mean, obviously Derrick Henry is built like these filing cabinets that are sitting next to us in this recording room. Like that dude is a block of human being and is fast, powerful. I mean, I feel like he's been in the league what seems like for decades. I know it, but it's almost like a little rejuvenation of his career this year.
And you want to see it.
Yeah, I mean, he's a complete beast. But man, I really don't want to see either one of those teams come to Arrowhead, Buffalo or Baltimore next week, and I'm hoping we can get past Houston and make that happen. But yeah, it's both those teams are scary.
I want Buffalo. I'll put it down. I want Buffalo. I want Buffalo now because here's the deal: their Super Bowl was when they beat us, and if we can't return, we got to win the Super Bowl this year. They've already won their Super Bowl for this year. They beat us. Okay, now it's time for the big boys to go and get their rewards. But I think we got an interesting week of football. Hopefully, we're able to talk about it more. It all depends on the sports we have. Luckily, this week we were a little short, and I think if the Chiefs win the Super Bowl, we'll have a special on that.
I'm sure we'll talk about something like that. Sure.
Something like that. I mean, a three-peat's a pretty big deal.
I mean, has it ever been done?
No, not even by Tom Brady.
Well, we might mention it. You mean the broadcaster? I didn't even know he played football.
Oh my goodness, I forgot about that. He played football.
Yeah.
Didn't he play for the Patriots, or
and
was
he's
it
part owner of the Raiders?
Yeah, it's crazy right now.
On.
Let's end it on this note. I heard Tom Brady reached out to Bill Belichick about coaching the Raiders.
Interesting. Yeah.
And Joe, our boss, is going to Vegas. So we're having him check out that report right now.
Absolutely.
We're fact-checking it. So don't think we don't have a reporter on it. We do.
Yeah.
That being said, that's our weekly roundup. We really hope you've enjoyed our weekly roundup this week. Or should I call it the winter roundup? Lots of sports. We really hope you enjoyed it. Up next, Brady Jones, our guest interview. My name is Garrett Sims. I got Brady Jones here with me, member of the OHS wrestling team, senior this year. Thank you for joining me.
Yep, thank you. Thank you for having me.
I just wanted to ask you a little bit. I know we're into wrestling season and stuff like that. So what about wrestling made you choose that, and what's been your favorite part about it?
To me, I was starting at a younger age, so I've kind of always just been around it. And it's almost like a healthy addiction, It's the hardship and the suffering, it sucks. And you hate it all the time. You never really learn to like that part of it. But there's something about it, after you come out of that, there's something about it that just always keeps you coming back, and the feeling of just success is just you just get a certain taste for it, and you're just always hungry for it.
You're passionate about wrestling, and you're talking about all these things. And do you have a wrestling style? Is there one you prefer? Is there a season you prefer? Freestyle, Greco.
Well, I love all types of wrestling. Freestyle is really fun because it's in the off season. Not as much pressure on you, but folk style has always been my type of thing, to be honest. But my style, I'd say, I don't really have I kind of just go out there and let it fly. I tend to bring the energy, and sometimes I do gotta pace myself a little bit, but at most times I like to 100% everything I'm doing, full speed.
And I just wanted to ask you a little bit. Now we're going into the season. What's some goals for yourself?
Some goals this year. I want to be able to focus on the mental side of wrestling a lot more than the physical side, because I work hard. I know that, but and I still have a lot of work to do. And but to me, once I focus on being able to prepare for matches or even practice with the mentality of I'm just here to get better. I'm here to do my part and wrestle hard and all these things, instead of focusing on the outcome, or if I'm gonna win this match, or if this guy's better than me, or all the bad things. I just need to focus on the process almost a lot more than the outcome.
Right on. And I just wanted to ask you a little bit too. Wrestling for Odessa, what does that necessarily mean to you, and to do that?
Well, our coach right now, Coach Brown, says honor and legacy, because Odessa's always been a strong powerhouse wrestling team, and through all the years, there's been a lot of people that come through, and our motto is you gotta honor them and leave a legacy behind, with the way you work and the things that you do. So it's you represent a very hardworking team, and a very we're always trying to be good people and just do the right thing. So you gotta leave that legacy behind, and as well honor the people that came before you.
And I know, like, growing up in football, you hear Allenbaum, you hear Wilson. Who were some of those guys for you that you looked up to wrestling?
Well, when Coach Gross was around, we had, Gavin Gross to look up to when I was younger, and all those guys, Bryce Palmer, people like, you got Jake Evinger, Sean Batter, all those guys. And, having them to look up to when you're younger, it's like, it gives you something to look forward to, because you see what they're capable of, and once you get to that high school level and you start winning, and you start getting that taste for success, and that hunger, it's like I see what I can do now, and it gives you that drive for motivation.
That's awesome. And it's crazy, Brady, you're saying that these are all kids that were under me that I graduated with friends. I'm old now. I'm old.
Yeah.
I just want to get into a little bit. What are some things, some matches you're looking forward to this season? Any teams you're looking forward to facing?
Yeah. So we had a school move up this year called Father Tolton, and I had a match earlier this year that I didn't wrestle too well. It wasn't my best performance, and I ended up losing the match. But I'm really focused on that mental part of it, and I want to see this kid again. And there's a lot of other schools that also I want to wrestle with, because you have opponents like P Hill that we're big rivals with, and always have been, and we just want to put a beating on them. So I'm excited to see that, and I just want to wrestle.
Yeah. You love the sport. You're passionate about it.
Yeah.
I just wanted to talk a little bit about, you're a senior this year. What are some things you try to do as a leader to kind of set everything you're talking about? How do you set the bar for that?
I try to remind these underclassmen, the kids below me, that it doesn't come for free, and kids like to take time off. Kids like to take the easy way out sometimes, but we gotta remember that our opponents don't care. Our opponents don't give a crap whether or not our head's hurting, or if we got boo-boos or bumps and scratches. And if we focus on that, and focus on what our opponents are doing, not necessarily worry about it, but realize that we just have to work harder than them, and do more and put time off in the off season, put time in in the mornings and whatnot. We got to work hard, work for it. It doesn't come for free.
I really like that because even Coach Thomas said, along that line of, does anybody feel sorry for you? And I really like that that's the mentality you have, and I really love that. I just wanted to ask you about some of your favorite teammates. Who do you enjoy wrestling with, and do you have any fun stories you like to share?
Yeah, I got a lot. Being a senior, some of the older guys are gone, but wrestling with these younger kids, we got a bunch of young kids that are just hammers. Kids like Jet Brown, he's a freak of nature. He's an athlete. He's a killer. So, but at the same time, he's just this fun guy to be around, and he's always making people laugh. And even being older, I look up to him even because he's just almost a role model, just naturally. So he's just always bringing good spirit and whatnot. So it's fun to be around him and good to have him on the team. And I got my buddy Gabe Studdard. He's a senior as well. So me and him go way back, and being able to have these memories as we go throughout our 4 years is really special. And wrestling with him all these years, we've made plenty of good memories that I could talk about forever. But I mean, all the kids really are just real good kids, and I love being around them, and it makes a real good family and environment for everybody.
That's awesome. I just wanted to ask you a couple more questions. The team is the defending 2 state champions, so in your opinion, what's it going to take to continue and defend that role, or defend that title?
Yeah, so coming back this year, we got a few injuries. We don't have everybody in the spot that we need them to be yet, but to me that's motivation. And but at the same time, once you get on the top of that pedestal and you're on the top of the podium, you can get complacent, and it's something you have to really just kind of what you've done in the past. If you're talking about that now, you ain't done nothing. You ain't done nothing this year. If you're talking about what we did last year, we're not focused on what we're doing right now. So it's almost like you just got to cut that off and just push it to the side and just focus on what we're gonna do now and how we can improve on every little thing.
That's perfect. And hopefully, when the time comes, we're the defending state 2 champions and all that. I wanted to get into a little bit of your future and just, outside of school, what are you going to miss about wrestling when it's all said and done? And then academically, college, or even life, what's the future look like for Brady Jones?
Yeah, I'm really trying to do well this year and see what happens after. But I mean, I am interested at wrestling at the collegiate level, and I've been talking to a few people, but it's definitely the high school wrestling is such a different kind of sport than a lot than some of these other sports. But I am gonna miss it because it's just such a you get such a sense of family, and just it's good being around these kids, and wrestling is almost just like the cherry on top,
Mm-hmm.
because you learn when you wrestle that you got to coach the character first, and once you coach that, then the wrestling comes along with it, and it just teaches you so many good things, and it's brought me a long way. So whether or not I leave it behind, it's always going to stick with me, and I am going to miss that part of it. All the life lessons that you learn and the hardship that you go through. It's something that you'll never forget.
Yeah. Now I'll just ask you: is there a dream school? Is there a top location? Is there anything like that?
I mean, everyone's got their dream school, and I could say I want to go wrestle at Mizzou, be a Tiger, but I see myself staying closer to home. But I mean, I feel like UCM would be a good spot for me because they're close to home. They got a good wrestling team, and they got all the things I want there for academically and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
So it looks like a good career path, but that would be a good spot for me to land, I feel. But honestly, wherever life takes me, I'm just along for the ride.
That's awesome, Brady. And I'll open it up to you. Anything else you want to say?
Not much. Just got to keep working hard, getting better every day. And trying to keep a smile on my face as I do it.
That's awesome, man. And thank you for joining me. This has been Brady Jones. I really appreciate it, man.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you.
So that wraps up Sports Timeout, episode 14 with guest Brady Jones. A big thank you to Brady for coming in. It means a whole heck of a lot, and it was a great conversation. Don't forget to pick up your copy of the Odessan for all your other non-sports related news and information. It's important. And lastly, let's make sure we're getting out here and supporting our winter sports. They put in a great deal of effort. It's important to make sure we're out there supporting our teams.